I'm up. All right, there we go. But I am one that I like raffles. I'm a big raffle person. So we are going to do a raffle at the end of class for, I have $5. We'll raffle off two $5 Starbucks cards and I'll put them at the office for you if you win. And those maybe, I don't know, Beth, if you're a detailed person, can you just keep tabs? Anybody who is on screen gets an automatic 2 points where I see their face. You get 2 points immediately because we do. Thank you, Andy. But you automatically get a 2 point bonus, even if you don't speak at all. But also, if you chime in with maybe something that you've done, we'd love to hear from you too, because otherwise it gets so boring. And, after 1 hour of me staring at myself with these Zoom calls. But I'm Joy Larson. I've been in real estate 7 years. I always say my husband made me. He was an investor wanting to quit his full-time job working as a freight forwarder. And so he had 20 bosses in 25 years. And he's like, I need to quit this. And so he started buying properties and he needed a certain amount of properties. And once he hit that amount, he could quit. Unfortunately, he's like, he had bought 20 investment properties back in the day when they were really cheap in Canton, Ohio. And he's like, we just gave up 20 grand in real estate commissions because you got $1,000 each deal. So he's like, one of us should be a realtor. And so then he's like, well, I'm busy because I have a full-time job and I'm trying to quit this job by being an investor. So you need to be a realtor. So he forced me into becoming a realtor. And that's how I've become one. That was 7 years ago. And then they dried up on the MLS. And so I am into regular real estate now. We have a team of, there's 3 agents of us. So Beth is, and Andy are on here too. Beth is actually, she sold $6 million last year. Woohoo! So I figured I want her on this call too, because you're going to want to hear what she has to say, because she is an amazing agent and she really does what you need to do when you're writing an offer. She's written many, many offers. I don't know, we should count how many wrote, Beth. But right. Anyway, that's me. Beth, go ahead and share.
Yeah, I'm Beth Hedke, and I've had my license now for coming up on 3 years. I didn't really do anything with my license the first year other than sell my own house and buy my own house. And that was predominantly the reason for getting my real estate license, was just to do that. And then I thought if I sold a couple extra houses a year, I would just make some extra money. And lo and behold, Wonder Woman realtor, Joy Larson, we know each other from church, and she asked me to be on her real estate team. And I thought, I'm an unproven commodity. I've only sold 2 houses and they're my own. And she said, I believe in you. I believe you can sell, 12 houses in your first year. And so I really began selling other people's houses and closed my first deal July of 2020. And I sold exactly 12 houses from July to December of 2020. And I thought that was just such a cool thing that she predicted 12 houses, and that's the exact amount that I sold. And so last year, 2021 would have been my first full year in real estate. And like Joy said, I sold, just slid over the $6 million mark for my first full year in real estate. And that's, I credit God for the blessing of that. And I credit Joy for her wonderful leadership. And I credit Keller Williams for just being such an awesome brokerage to work in. And so I'm very thankful, and I'm very excited about my second full year. I've got some high goals for myself, and Joy and Andy, we have a wonderful team atmosphere, and I love being on the team, and I'm just looking forward to a great year. But yes, we've written many, many deals, and as a new agent, I can tell you, starting out, it can be a little scary. I think I spent at least 2 hours over that contract on my first deal, fretting over every little thing, wanting to get it right, as we should. This is people's biggest purchase of their life. We need to get it right. And at the same time, we're churning them out now in about 15, 20, 30 minutes to write up a deal now. So over time, it just gets easier and easier. And of all the experience and the deals that we've written up, we've become more knowledgeable with each and every deal. And I think Joy would say the same thing. Even though 8, 9 years into real estate, we're always learning something new every day. And that's a good thing, because we take that little nugget and we become better and better experts at what we do every day.
Well, and I have to say, just starting out, I will never forget, how many of you have been in Keller Williams for longer than 6 months? Okay. All right. That helps, because I remember, like, when I first started, like, I seriously cried through my entire first offer. It took me 4 hours to write that, and my husband, some of you are nodding your heads like, oh my gosh, I seriously cried, and it took 4 hours, and my husband was trying to get me to the stupid dot loop and technology. And I just have to say, that's why I wanted to talk about writing offers and all of that, because I was terrible at it, and so it is okay if you screw up. It's okay, Yeah, don't tell Rob Quinn there. He's going to be watching this video and but that's where having Jennifer as your coach too, she's amazing. She truly cares. And, it's one of those things that's worth paying that productivity coaching to make sure you have those second set of eyes on everything. Or if you're in a team, if you guys are on a team, that, that you'll have another agent with eyes on it, so that you want to make sure you do everything correct. Where me, I was a solo agent. I was all by myself, I figured. And again, dot loop, I couldn't figure out, and it would take me 4 hours. So things have changed a lot. But today we're talking about, making and receiving. We're going to focus on making offers, because I figured the majority of you are buyer's agents or buyer heavy. Listings, man, if you're a lister, you will be blessed, because you'll just get those offers in. Beth, you were saying there were 14 offers on a property yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday I showed a property first day on the market. And when I called the agent to see if they had any offers, he said, yes, 14 of them, day one.
So we're in a time frame again that's going to be like last spring. How many of you were here last spring? Were any of you here March, April, May? Okay, so March, April, May was insane. It's already starting improving to be that way again, with nothing on the market. So that's where we need to make sure that you do everything you can to win it, right? Now, if we're against you, that's okay. You'll know everything we do, which is all right. That's what abundance mentality there. but I want to share my screen a little bit. Let's see, it says disabled participant screen sharing, Jennifer. Can you guys see my screen or no?
Not yet, Joy.
Okay. Oh, you're on mute, Jennifer.
Oh, sorry. If you X out the screen sharing portion and then go back and do it, you should be able to do it now. Sorry.
Oh, that's
I-
okay.
Thought I had it.
So, all right. There we go. Okay. Share my screen. There we go. You guys can see it now, right? Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
And Beth's going to keep track, if you don't mind, Beth. They get 2 points for being on, and if you do jump in and ask a question or things like that, we can give you a point too, and then we'll do a raffle. Brian has a question. Do you want to go ahead? You're going to need to unmute. Yep.
I just raised my hand for one of the other questions you asked.
Okay,
Sorry.
go ahead.
No, I didn't have a question.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Well, all right. First off, I'm going to, on here, this is all about Ignite. We're going to skip through. I am not one that follows anything, and Jennifer gave me permission to go a little off script, right? So we're gonna just go through, because I figure sometimes it's nice to have a checklist. But first, Beth, I'm gonna have you jump in.
Okay.
And just give us a scenario of what you've done recently with writing an offer and some things that you have done. And then we can maybe go through some of this checklist too.
Okay. Well, one of the first things, especially if you're in a multiple offer situation, is you really need to give the selling agent a call and find out, ask some more questions about the property. Make sure you're completely knowledgeable about the residential property disclosure and any other supplements that are on there. But the purpose is also to get some more information from the sellers as to what they're looking for. Is there a certain time frame? Do they prefer a certain title company to use? Will they be giving a home warranty? So you want to pick their brain a little bit about, so when they get your offer, you already are accommodating to what the seller and what the seller's agents would like to see. So it's always a good practice. I don't always get an answer, especially like yesterday's property had 14 offers. He didn't answer the phone and he didn't call me back, but I sent him a quick text so I could get some more information, and he did text me back. So some agents will get right back to you, some won't, but it's always good practice to reach out and have a conversation with the selling agent about what the seller is looking for.
So what property was that, Beth, that you were showing?
That was Hickox Boulevard in Middleburg Heights.
Okay.
And so the listing agent had it at 199. It had 1,500 square foot ranch with a partially finished basement. I mean, granted, it was grandma's place. Everything was outdated, but that area commands a higher price. The selling agent was smart enough to price it where she did to get everybody and their brother through. And that's what, even in a like pending snowstorm, there were so many people at that house. It was just a free-for-all. Like I must have been there with 4 other agents. So you can look at the MLS and there's like hardly anything on it. There's no description. There's no broker notes, hardly at all. They are telling you on the when highest and best is due by, always be very mindful about that section where it's saying, here's where you need to send the offer to. A lot of times you'll see the list agent, but the list agent is not the one that's making the final decision. So please look at, who do you send the offer to, and make sure you're, paying attention to those details where you're sending it to the right agent at the right time. So like this guy wants everything in by 5 p.m. Because he's going to be reviewing on Sunday. So,
Well, and that's the one thing that I have to say, you can tell a newer agent or someone who's lazy, not saying we're lazy, because sometimes we're so busy that we screw up. But the key with making an offer is you need to look, all right, so this agent doesn't have much here, but down here, multiple offers are in, seller has requested all highest and best by this Saturday, February 5th at 5 p.m. All right. So you don't need to text him and say, hey, when are offers due by, and that's where you as an agent, that is going to be annoying to some listing agents saying, can't they read? You want to read through everything that's been written about it.
Yeah.
Also, and here it's right, agent is related to the sellers. So again, that is something you're going to need to put into disclosures, agency disclosure for him, because we have to have that in the agency disclosure form too. So, putting that in helps him because otherwise he could get in trouble. If you're related to anyone, you need to have that disclosed. And all offers will be reviewed by Sunday evening. You don't want to be the pesty agent. Now you want to make sure that they got the offer, but you don't want to be saying, when are you going to let us know when it's due? Well, it says right there. Again, as a listing agent, I have had people ask questions that are right here in the broker remarks. So please lock up before leaving, scramble lockbox. It's interesting that he probably wrote that because somebody did not lock the doors. So again, we think that people know what they're doing, but again, some buyers, I'm not saying you guys, but some people get lazy. Also in supplements here, just make sure that you have everything. Now he has an ABA, the Affiliated Business Agreement. So he is with Venture Title or Ohio Real Title probably. He might prefer as a buyer's agent, yes, you get to choose the, title company, right? But if you're in multiple offers, you want to do whatever it takes to get the deal, right? And sometimes those agents, sometimes they don't care, but sometimes they do care. And you might just want to say, even though you see this, now I prefer Infinity over Ohio Real Title, but, I might just say, do you care what title company? Do you prefer a certain title company? And I will ask the agent that. And even though they have this on there, they may say, no, I don't care. Or they might say, yes, Ohio Real Title. So I don't know, Beth, have you done that same thing?
Yeah, definitely. I tend to go with what, because the selling agent does have some influence over the seller's decisions. So I would definitely try to accommodate as much as I can. And you are fiduciary to your client and trying to get them the house that they want. So your job is to do everything you can to get your buyer picked. So for me, I always go with what is going to be pleasing to the selling agent as well as the sellers, because the more I can do to put my client in a better light for them, the better chance I have to get picked for my client.
Yeah. I sort of want to go through right here. So the checklist to prepare an offer, and then Beth, you can chime in too. I'm just going to go over with what Ignite. So when you are doing your offer, I had one agent once when I had a listing, they sent me 5 different emails where because they didn't know how to do it in .loop to put them all in one file. So they emailed me 5 times. You just want to have that pre-approval as the first one that the agent sees. One of the things that I know that that Noah with Cross Country does, and I'm sure there's other ones out there, those lenders, they actually will call the listing agent when we've written an offer to just say, hi, I'm Noah with Cross Country, or whichever lender that they're using. If they call that listing agent and just say they're ready to go, pre-approved, ready to go, that might be, when you're in a multiple offer scenario, a good thing. Right now with the, I'm going to skip the CMA because at this point you need to write an offer at asking or above in this market, depending. Some of them that have been on the market a while, you don't need to do that so much. The tax records, now Andy just had a deal where the tax records were off, and they could be off, but you want to make sure that tax records don't say $0, because some of our buyers might think that, but I really don't go through that with my buyers usually. The one thing with the ensure the property is still available, oh my word, there have been times where I showed it and my people are like, no, that's it, that's the one. You know, you will want to shoot a text to your client, right, you know, or to the agent before you write the offer, because how many of you have ever gotten home and it's been under contract before you even got to write it, right?
And be particularly careful on Mondays. I found that properties will go under contract Sunday, but maybe they don't have all the paperwork signed. So they haven't taken it off the market on active and put it pending yet. And so I'm always really careful on Mondays to make sure I call the agent and say, you haven't signed anything, right? Like you're not getting ready to take this off the market, just to be sure, just so you're not wasting your time, Mondays particularly.
Yeah, for sure. And that's where you will just want to make sure to text them and say, hey, it's still available, right? Because we are going to write an offer. And I do that immediately before I drive home, because, you know, you get your client all excited. They want to write an offer and then, oh, brother, it's under contract, right? It's frustrating, but it's okay. I always say the right house at the right time to my buyers, because it all works out for everybody. Sometimes it takes a year to 2. Beth has a client that's 2 years down the road, and, you know,
2 years and 60 properties later. And I think everybody has one of those.
Does anybody have one of those? I'm curious, you know. But anyway, but the big crucial part here when speaking with the listing agent, to build rapport, gather as much information. And I know Erin, for those of you who were on the call 2 days ago, you know, she was just saying, I mean, you're buttering them up. You butter that listing agent up, you know, like you're gonna, if you list, you become a very popular person, but people get mad at you when, you know, 14 offers later, you don't accept them. So then you're not popular after that, but you'll want to butter them up. So Beth, what do you usually say when you talk to them?
Well, I think just a sincere kindness and a genuine, approach is always good. Because, that agent, that selling agent wants to work with somebody who's going to be, kind and works well with you. So I think just a general sense of, how are you doing? Not necessarily, I don't know, I don't really think it's called buttering. I think it's just a general sense of kindness, like, hey, I'm open to, putting a great deal together with you. So, and I always say, like, even when I make the offer, I'm really looking forward to working with you on this property. I think it makes a difference.
Yep. Yep. Well, and just finding out details. We'll talk about some of the things to be asking for, asking questions of the listing agent, what's important to the seller. Like the huge thing is, especially last year in March, April, May, I had a listing where my person could care less about how much they were getting. They cared more about staying in their home as long as possible. And so we had 60-day free rent in the house, as it was a lower offer, but they had 60 days free to live there, and they could go beyond that if need be. You have to be careful of that, because we had an issue where the lender found out and he's like, you can't do that, and insurance and all of that. So you have to make sure, talk to lender, talk to everybody involved before you are doing those kind of things. But you find out from the listing agent what's important to that seller. I remember, and this was one of the things, I remember one time I put an offer in and I lost it, and we had a really great offer. And I was sitting next to the owner of that house. She didn't realize that I was the second offer. And she told me that she accepted a $2,000 less offer, but they had a nice letter that said, thank you for serving our country. I'm like, so I missed out, and
So I think that answers Ray's question. He said, how often does a seller follow like the advice of the listing agent, or if they like, I think there's a lot of different things that could influence a
Yes.
seller. So many
Mm.
different things.
Yep.
This
And
is
so that's
foreign
where
to me.
sometimes they don't listen to us when we are a listing agent. And that's where writing a letter, we cannot, for purposes of fair housing and all of that, say, write a letter. If they write a letter, we can submit it. I do put on there all about, how flexible we are, in those details, unless my buyer is not flexible. But I make my buyers be flexible. If we're in multiple offers, I make it very clear to my buyer that you better be flexible or you're not going to get this house, because we are in multiple offers. So Beth, do you say that to your?
Yes, and even, because as agents, a lot of times we kind of pick a date out of the hat, per se, on the closing dates. So a lot of times I will put just a text box in there to say, flexible to, on closing date, whatever the seller is agreeable to. So like if they had, they might see that and go, oh, well, they're good with changing the date. So it's not because on the contract, it gives you a date. That's it, So putting a little verbiage in there to say, hey, we can go with whatever you like.
Well, and that's where the closing date and possession, you really want to watch that. A lot of times I just put 0 for possession. So as soon as it closes, we get possession. But in this market in March, April, May, if it's vacant, you can put 0 as soon as title transfers. But a lot of times, people are going to want 2-3 days, sometimes a week or 2 weeks. And that's where talking to the listing agent helps. So that's one key thing. Jennifer, were there other questions in the?
Well, I think Ray does make a good point. So, like when I started in real estate, it was more of a neutral market, and I definitely was far more aggressive because I was the only agent putting an offer in on a house. So, yes, Ray, you're right. Now we're not talking about being flexible necessarily. We're saying, no, as your agent, I'm going to get you the best deal possible for this house, and I'm going to negotiate like a beast, right? This market is different because, starting in March 20, I had a couple listings and I'm like getting 20 offers. I'm going, what's going on? I don't know what's going on. And now we're fine tooth picking through them, and it's like they better have sent their highest and best because this is it. And in a normal market, yeah, we wouldn't do it. We wouldn't submit offers like that. We wouldn't submit our highest and best. We'd submit something more aggressive. And there are houses that are priced too high right now on the market that are sitting there. Those would be that type of scenario too, where you would be more aggressive in getting that price lowered. I just help my buyer purchase a home literally 50,000 less than what it was originally listed for. So there is still room for aggressive buyers agents right now.
Right. I did have a deal last spring. In that market, it was like, if the house sat on the market more than a week, everyone said, what's wrong with it? Including buyers. They're like, well, what's wrong with that one? That's been on the market for 10 days. And I said, nothing's wrong with it. It's just severely overpriced. So let's look at the houses, because it's been so difficult to get a house in multiple offers for the one that everyone's offering 20 offers on. Let's look at some properties that have been on the market for more than 2 weeks, just because they're overpriced. And so we did that. And the first house she looked at, we made a $30,000 under asking price. We danced into the middle, and she got a great property for $15,000 under the asking price. And it was not because it wasn't a great house. It was a great house, but they were just asking too much money.
And
So-
that's another thing, like you might want to go on the MLS. If you look, there's a bunch of expireds on there. Go on and look at the expireds over the past year, and call that agent, that listing agent, and just say, I mean, you might just want to find out about details on that property. I just had a client that we showed a house. It went off the market because it was way too high, and my person's like, whoa, that's way too high. Or, we actually just called that agent again and said, hey, would they be interested in revisiting this house? And she's reaching back out to them because it expired. I had showed it to them, and we may get a deal, we may not, but go ahead and look at those expireds, call them. Even you can be the lister of those expireds. You have full game, right, Jennifer?
Yes, and if you're in productivity coaching, you have a whole list of expireds, and you could call the actual owner if you wanted to, because I have their phone numbers there.
And that's huge. This is a great time to go through those expireds. And you know what? If you don't get it, you don't get it. But if you just find your niche and practice those scripts, the scripts do help. And I need to get better about the scripts too. It doesn't matter how long you've been in the business. We all need help at some time, right? Right? Are there any other questions so far? And remember, you get a raffle ticket if you ask a question too.
So I do have a question. You said,
Go ahead, Julie.
sorry, when you, when you're doing the closing date and, you know, your buyer's flexible on it, you said you add a little text box, and maybe that was you, Beth.
Yeah.
Do you just put it in that spot? I'm just curious as to
I
what
do.
it looks
I
like.
just put it right next to it so they know exactly what I'm referring to. I just put a closing date in and I say buyers are flexible.
Okay.
Yep.
Do they have to initial next to there or anything, or do you?
Not really, because
No?
you're
Okay.
not changing anything. You're not,
Okay.
you know, you're just acknowledging, hey, I'm adding a little more verbiage to go, you know what, or whatever date you want.
Okay. No, I like that.
Any other questions?
Yes, I had a question. So this is for you both, Beth and Joy. So do you guys have a particular strategy when it comes to saving your buyer as much out-of-pocket funds as possible when it comes to writing the offer? So whether it's offering above listing and then maybe asking for closing cost. Any particular strategies you guys find helpful that you can share?
Well, I've enlisted and used the escalation clause, which can sometimes prevent your buyer from overpaying. And so, but that's not necessarily out of pocket because that would be rolled into the loan unless they're cash buyers. But I've also done the, you know, give a higher asking price and then asked for closing costs back because, but you know, some agents, I don't know, like, I kind of wonder about their math skills, you know, honing every deal down to bottom line for the seller, you know, and sometimes I've had it where like, I feel like sometimes they're not giving the bottom line to them.
Yes, and as a listing agent, definitely run a net sheet when you
Yeah.
receive those offers and make sure they understand what the net is. We have a great multiple offer presentation that you can send them on command. So if you're in PC, you want to learn how you get multiple offers in, I can show you how to do that.
Oh, that I would like be interested in doing.
Okay, we should probably have a class on that. It saved my life. It really did. Like
Wow.
I'd never been in a multiple offer situation like that in 2020. I think it was spring, and I had 3 listings that just blew up in my face, and I was not prepared to have that many offers come at me. And so I used command. I plugged in all the details. It created a chart for my seller. I was able to
Wow.
bring that chart, and they could see the bottom line. They could see the type of financing, the down payment for each one, their net proceeds. It was pretty cool.
Hello, I'm gonna use that.
Well, and that's the one
So
thing
you-
it said
you-
in command, like it said on the training to do that. So Jennifer, that is huge, and productivity coaching, that's amazing. That's a good
Yeah.
plus too.
Joy, do you have any other suggestions about the, you know, selling, you know, saving your buyers as much money on the out of pocket costs?
Well, like you said, Beth, that escalation clause can be good, or some people can get mad at those too. So you have to be careful again on using it. Now, I did have a situation where I had a buyer. We said we knew there was there was like 12 people showing the house. It was a Friday. On Saturday, 12 people were showing the house. So we said, we will go 5,000 above asking, you know, boom, done, you know, no escalation, no nothing. My buyers were willing to risk that. And the guy's like, no, I want to play it Saturday, you know, and I'm like, all right, that's fine. So then I told my buyer, I said, look, we're going to do an escalation addendum and put list price with an escalation up to the price that we would have paid Friday. You know, And the guy ended up, we got it for ask price. This seller could have gotten 5,000 more, but because we did the escalation addendum and there was no other offer out of those 12 showings, and this is where you never know. I have had many times where as a listing agent, I had one offer. You know, right, Beth? We just had one offer in Chagrin Falls.
One
And
really good offer. It's all it takes.
that was it. There was no escalation. They just wrote it. But if they would have wrote an escalation, they would have saved their buyer how much?
30,000. Yeah.
So you don't know in this market, sometimes things are overpriced. And some, you know, you just don't know. And I do like that escalation. Ray and Brian, did you have questions? I see your hand raised.
Yeah, my question is about the escalation clause. Those throw me a bit. When I was buying my house, yeah, there were some feeding frenzy houses that were, and I was asked to do that. As a negotiator, what I do for a living for 30 years, that's just, again, I know it's part of the market now, but it's silly to me. It's like saying here, I'm willing to go this, but I'm only bidding this. Well, what's the point? Now, yes, when there's a feeding frenzy, and unfortunately, if the client has their heart set on this particular house, I guess it has a usage, but I guess I don't, okay, so who sees that? Like, I've just put myself in a horrible negotiating position by saying I'm willing to go up. So I'm showing them that at the beginning before I've even started negotiating. What's the point? I might as well just bid more. You see my problem with that? I guess now again, as a buyer, remember, I was a buyer, I'll walk away. I know what the house is, I know what I like, and this is what I'll pay. Have a nice day. Now, that's probably going to be 0.01% of my clients going when I become an agent, but I guess you guys, if you guys could explain the escalator a little bit, and how often does that actually succeed when there's a feeding frenzy, when there is multiple offers? That would be my question.
Beth, you want to start? Or you-
Okay, I've listed quite a few houses that have given escalation clauses, and almost every single one of them we've enacted. I just listed a house in Strongsville, a condo, and for the list price was $179, and we got an escalation clause. We got they put an offer in for the asking price with an escalation clause up to $192. And we got another offer that was a financed offer that said $192. And so we're going to use that. We're going to enable that. We want the seller to get $192, but we want to take the cash offer. So you just,
How did you arrive at 192?
That was their pick. They decide what. I tell my buyers, if you want to use an escalation clause, what is the highest amount you will go where you're not going to be upset if somebody else gets the house for $1,000 more? What's your breaking point? Go up to that point. And so but it if you only got one offer and none of the offers were over asking price, then your buyer is saved from having to give 192 when they could have given 179.
No, so you said there was another buyer at 192 also.
Right. And so
it's just, I find it odd that they both arrived at 192.
I know, they both came in at 192.
Okay. So it was just a coincidence. It wasn't like
just a
somebody shared some
coincidence.
inside
There was
information.
nothing in there that,
Okay.
they determined that was the highest that they were willing to pay, both of them. So,
And I had another situation where we were in multiple offers, and actually my buyer was $500 over the other one. And like, some sellers care only about the money.
mhm.
And then some sellers like I lost out on a deal because they liked that person because they wrote a letter that said, thank you for serving our country, and gave their whole spiel. And my person did not write a letter. Well, they got it because of that letter. And we have to be careful of fair housing. So now that we're on video, I want to make sure. Because that is something you have to be very careful on. But and some agents will say no letters, I will not share. I've had that. Some will say no escalation clauses. You know, so you have to keep in mind all of that. And you just have to be careful, because if you're like, you know, would your sellers look at an escalation clause? I mean, that agent might say, look, they can't stand those escalation clauses. So I am darn sure not going to write an escalation clause if that listing agent says that.
And I love Ray's questions. In a normal market, we would not be using escalation
Right,
clauses.
right.
Because yes,
Right.
it's a tell. It says,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay,
with
you're
my
right.
recent
So-
buyer, I knew how much they were approved for. I said, get me a lower pre-approval letter, please. You know, I'm not
What-
going to tell them what you can do.
Yeah.
Okay, so why would a seller care about an escalation clause? Why would they be opposed to that?
Just some people, it's just, I mean, some sellers just don't like it. Like my husband thinks escalation clauses are stupid. Like he's like, you're showing their
Same here.
hand, because he's a negotiator and he was
Yep.
in sales. And he's like,
Correct.
why would you do that? But yet, again, that escalation clause saved, if they would have had it on our Chagrin Falls one, they would have saved 30 grand.
1,000, yeah, yeah. One other little trick, if you are going to use an escalation clause, I love to make the offer an odd number, so that you are going to be, like, I'll say, if you're going to offer 200,000, why don't we offer 200, you know, and $203,000, like 200,300. So like just putting in an odd number. I had that Chagrin Falls, they made the offer, and the offer number was the address for the last three numbers. Absolutely so cute. My seller was enamored with that. The address was 482 Laurelbrook, and the people wrote the offer for $515,482, the address. I just thought, she just thought that was so fun. So there's sometimes just little tricks and tips, you know, try not to make it an
Why-
even number.
Why does that help, the odd number thing?
The
why does
odd
that
number
do?
would help, because if you're going to be $500 over the asking price, other people are going to use flat numbers. So you'll be $300 more than that.
Well, and we did
Oh,
about
okay.
like, we were 500 over the other person, because I forgot what it was, but it was like 220,500 we were. So they chose us just because of that 500, where, you know, that's where you don't want to be right on the money with 000, because being over, like Beth said, you know, you could be, and they might just look at the money aspect only. Like my husband, that's all about the money. He could care less who comes in, you know, he
Correct.
just wants to look at the bottom line numbers. So. Any other questions? Good questions. Any other in the chat box, Jennifer? I don't really see the chat box.
What would a buyer need to do to get a lower pre-approval letter? And then,
Call your lender. They'll write whatever you want,
Yeah.
up to a certain point, up to what they're pre-approved for.
I've had for some buyers, I've had their $500,000 letter, their $400,000 letter, and then I just submit the
Yes.
one. I'm like, I'm not going to tell them they're approved for
Right.
this amount, you know. I want them to think we're at the breaking our budget, you know, on this purchase. What questions would you ask? Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, or there could be a situation where you do want them to see that. so that they know they've got a whole lot of other properties that they can bid on, and not this one. So if they really want to get adamant about their price, well, I can go into another neighborhood and bid up
Yeah.
to 500,000.
Yeah, I did
Yeah.
that for one of my buyers because they were doing this, even though they were approved for 500,000, they were doing 3% down and it looked terrible. I'm just like, this is terrible. So we're bidding on $300,000 houses and I would submit the $500,000 pre-approval. So it's like, okay, no, don't worry about this dude, okay? Just because he's just only putting 3% down, he's golden.
Well, and that's
Right.
where, again, with all of this, there's lots of little tricks, but every deal is so unique and different. So what you might think will work for this deal might change because it
Yeah.
all depends on the seller that you're going up against, how many people, like, is there 5 offers or has it been on the market a while? So really, that's where being in productivity coaching with Jennifer, that's huge because, just having that advice from somebody, every deal is different and unique. And agents are like the listing agents. Some people are very crabby. Andy, we had a deal where he was this one agent was just a jerk, and so, we were going in together and I don't know why she was nice to me and not nice to him. I'm like, what the heck? Like, just people are different, agents are different too. So you're not only dealing with the seller, but you're dealing with that agent. So you just have to keep in mind all those details, and having somebody coaching you and helping you through it, at least for the first 6 deals, is huge.
Yeah. Danielle asked the question, does the listing agent see the escalation clause with the offer? The answer is yes. When you submit your offer, you're going to include that in your PDF or on .loop. That's one of the documents you'll include. And then on the purchase agreement, there's a section where it says, well, what other documents are included? The residential property disclosure, the lead-based paint, and on other, you'll put the ABA, the escalation clause, just so the listing agent knows there's something coming. And I'll even put it sometimes up front by the purchase price. I'll put a text box that says, please see escalation clause. Just, better safe than sorry, to make sure the listing agent is seeing all. A lot of listing agents love an offer cover letter where you're just giving the basic facts about everything, and you can put it in there as well.
And that's huge, that cover, or, the cover letter, or just in the email form, like, I always say, here's the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
And sometimes if they have 14 offers, they're like, their brains, they have a headache, because they're trying to help their seller and they're overwhelmed themselves, to be honest. And so if you just spell that out, they're like, oh, that's really nice. I like this agent because look, I don't have to go through the 40 pages of documents. It's all right there. And especially that escalation addendum, if you don't have that, put that in there and then put it, like Beth said, like, you want to make sure that they know there's an escalation addendum, because it could get lost with the 14 deals.
Yep.
So.
Definitely.
All right, Ray, do you have one last question? Because we got to do our raffle before we end.
Sorry, yeah, one more. So we talked about fair housing, and you got to be careful. I get it. But you also mentioned that there's buyers out there, you got the sweet old couple that are looking to downsize and they care who buys their house. And so there's a fine line, right? So I want to make my offer and appeal to that. Oh, I've got this cute young couple and they've got 2 little kids and they would love this house. Now, is that okay? Is that below the line of fair housing information? And where is that line? Like, how much can I sell the buyer to them without stepping over some kind of weird arbitrary line of fair housing?
Well, I've actually, like, I don't say you have to write a letter, but I just have given the scenario where my people weren't chosen because they didn't. And I say, it's totally up to you. You know, I will submit what you give me. And if not, you know, I write a little thing in the comment about, you know, and I get permission from my buyer that I can say, hey, you know, they're really excited about the house. I always just say, at least tell me something about the house that you loved so that I can let the agent know, just in case they are one of those that are going to choose based on emotion. And
Okay.
Beth, have you done anything like that too?
I haven't, but I like that thought of just plucking something out that they loved about the house. So
Yep.
you're not infringing on anybody, any type of person. You're focusing on the house itself.
Yeah. So, I mean, I submit, if they give me something, I submit it with them. The agent does not have to give that to her buyer or to her seller. And I know sometimes in broker remarks, don't put it in there. But I do like to comment about how much they love the house and this is why they loved it. I love to do that for every house for my buyers, for sure. Okay, it's time. Beth,
Okay.
who are the two winners?
Okay, here's my pile of entries. I'm gonna pick.
Woo-hoo!
They're
Okay,
all crumpled up. Okay, ready? The first winner is Antoine,
woo!
and the second winner is Samantha.
So congratulations, you two. We'll give Jennifer the two gift cards, or, you know, to the office, whichever is better. And thanks so much for letting us join you. We're all over the place. I actually love being in person, but I know not everybody can, and being on a snow day too. But
Thank you so much, Joy Beth. And yes, if you could drop those gift cards off at the front desk at Strongsville, pick them up. Congratulations, Antoine and Samantha. That was such a sweet thing to do for them. Thank you.
gotta make
Yes.
it fun, right? You know? Happy snowy day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye. We'll see you on, let's see, today's Thursday, so I'll see you guys on Monday. Have a
Take
great
care.
weekend. All right.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks.